Okay. Jeff, are we good to go? Are we recording? Are we doing the thing?
Very shortly.
Very shortly.
I thought you were going to ask if you were live.
You can stand up.
Okay, we'll do it live.
No, I'll stand up. Well, I will stand up. Actually, not the whole time. I'll just with you talking.
You guys should rehearse this.
That's choreography. What I'm going to do is rehearse. One forward, one back. We'll be here all week, folks. Trust me, it's fantastic. You've been a great crowd. We're waiting for our.
You figure you better give the man space, right?
Why? I like to be able to see him. Was it here?
I am. What we're waiting on is our track equipment crew to get everything just exactly perfect. On account of from now on, we're going to be known as the just exactly perfect guys. Of course, I would like to request.
Anybody here believe that?
You know that's a good way to jinx the whole thing.
Yeah, I would like to request at this time that people fill your phone.
We should do that.
Yeah, come think that so should I. Hey. I have had my phone go off in the middle of a guest of honor speech at a convention. That was not what I was preferring to have happen at that moment.
There are seats if you guys want to sit. All of them.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We're live.
We're live. Okay, you got signal. You got all the yummies.
All the digits.
Fantastic. So here's what's happening today. Guy and I have a new book that we're just completing. The working title is Sort of Happenstance. And just for shits and giggles, we cut it down into a short story. And then we rearranged the short story for live reading. So that's what we're doing here. And I would like to make a shout out at this point to my friend Chris, who started this. It's all his fault.
Since you made it, we can like.
Right. Do we have sound, Jeff?
Yep.
Hey, we got sound. I'm here now. All right. How much room do I have, Jeff? Without?
This whole front.
Oh,
Pace
wow.
as much as you want.
Like awesome. You wonder how much of a difference accidents make. I don't believe the way things work out is just happenstance, but I also have trouble believing in destiny. One day, Mom decided we needed a new kettle, and that set everything else. What if she decided to revisit it? Or a day later? I don't know. Of course, this was before I met your grandmother. Do you want to know how it all happened? Of course, I'll tell you, but it's a long story. My mother, your great-grandmother, was a barber and a dentist. She and father had a farm, a freehold, I'm proud to say, and kept some pigs until the fever came and took father and my little brother with her. I was 9. After that, Mom traded the farm for a wagon and mules and razors and scissors. We traveled a circuit around the area, cutting hair, drawing teeth, sometimes doing surgery. She was teaching me to sharpen her razors, but it went slowly because I wasn't very good at it. As you grow up, you'll learn you can't be good at everything. Not even you, Alan. There was a smith in Greenmere, one of our regular stops. He was a good smith, too. Old, but he could pound you out a dozen nails while you were saying good morning. Mom had decided we needed that new kettle, so while we were in town, she sent me over there to try to work out the His smithy was next to an empty lot on one side and a cobbler named Forrest on the other. We housed the mules, we watered them from the town well, and looked for the graves in the lot while Mom went to see who needed a mullet cut or beard pulled. I went to the smithy full of a kid's confidence that I would emerge with a bargain for a kettle that would make Mom beam in front. It was hot in here, and Smith had his back to me, so I couldn't tell what he was hammering. I stepped between the concrete blocks and the stool he wasn't using and saw a sword on the end. At about the same time, he noticed me and said, "Whatever you want, I don't have time, boy." That's a sword. And people say today's youth are ignorant. I want the commission to come back day after tomorrow. I didn't know he made swords. He straightened up and twisted both ways with a stick, then took a long drink out of something in a wooden tanker. Leave it to the blacksmith to have a wooden tanker fight. He said, "I used to, don't let him lost the knack." He glanced at the blade. "Oh no, don't look." He said, "And this one is special." "Yes, sir." He shrugged. "Not that you know the difference between a masterwork and something that's stamped out of a piece of junk steel." "No, sir. But this is important. It's a gift for His Majesty." "You know His Majesty?" "No, but Lord Belton does, and he commissioned me." "Wow," I said. He seemed pleased at how impressed I was. He wiped his hands on his apron and said, "What is it you want?" "A kettle." "That means a sand mold." "Yes, sir." "All right. I'll finish with this sweetheart tomorrow except for sharpening. If you come by in the afternoon, we can talk while I sharpen it." "Can you show me how?" "I can let you watch," he said more kindly than I expected. "But you can't touch this one. She's special. Tonight I'm going to heat her up again and hammer in." "No, I shouldn't say. In any case, I'll see you tomorrow." "Yes, sir," I said, and took my leave. We slept as we usually did in the wagon. The next day I returned to the smithy in the afternoon, and the sword was on the ground. A gleaming double-edged weapon, with a long, sleek blade glued filament wrapped around the leather hilt, and a large red jewel gleaming from the handle. Next to it, a step away, was Smith, staring up at the ceiling with lifeless eyes. There was no blood, no sign of what had killed him. There was an expression of surprise on his face, but that's not unusual when people die. I don't know how long I stood there. It isn't like I'd never seen a dead person. I'd seen my own father when I was much younger, but this was different. He'd been so very alive yesterday, I was lying there, staring up at nothing. I was about to go and find someone to tell, but then my eye returned to the sword, the red jewel. I didn't know what the jewel was, but I knew it was worth more than everything Mom and I owned put together. Could I steal it? Could I steal the sword? I thought about it, but I lacked the courage. The punishment for stealing back then was, well, some of you would see answers. But then it came to me that if I were to deliver the sword, there might be a reward. Perhaps not as much as the jewel was, but still welcome. Before I could think about it too much, I picked up the sword, surprised at how light it felt. Resting it on my shoulder, I set off to the castle. Now you're going to laugh at your old grandfather, because it never crossed my mind that if I picked up the sword and started carrying it away, someone would think I was stealing it, even if that wasn't my intention. Fact is, I didn't even think about that until much later. I can only say I got lucky, so no one was about it. Evening was approaching by the time I reached the great gate of Castle Grandview. I hoped it wouldn't take too long. I didn't want Mom to start worrying. As I approached the gate, a guard on the rampart challenged me. I don't now remember exactly what he said, but I remember that I had no idea how it seemed.
There are three characters I've known all my life. Nothing is an accident. True love happens only at first sight, and a town should have only one day. Three characters. Well, 2.5, since I was still quite small to run for Congress. Not a lot of ambitions. I dreamed of great things. Cassandra said it was how I spent all my years, but she was mistaken. My days were taken up with carrying messages between the castle and the witch of the woods. Purchase would send readers who learned to speak to each other and read and study. They sang me, and I learned some along the way well. No one wants to. Now, neither which was what you call a natural teacher, but both would let me read from their grammars or use odds and bonds from their word lists to practice how I read the words. They both liked to hear stories about them. They would let me. They paid for my tales and snake games, and I could also train on the same rules as two. So in the morning our story begins with 2 weeks from our grandfathers. I was up and waiting in the castle yard to carry a message to the usually I had a bit of magic to the castle, but that morning they were stationed in Stonewall and looking like the clothes of grandfathers. Sybil and Brittany were waiting by the gate, huddled against the chimney, he with a small silver-banded box, and she with a scroll that was House of Brust. Excited, my hands in the pockets of my clothes. We all have errands for everything. No wonder you're in the chest. Well, I suppose you won't be able to tell them I do. In turn, Pete noticed the face. I just went at every seamstress in the town for samples for dresses from a lady for her journey to King's Ball. Journey 4 is self-employed. I was too sad. Britain said, you have heard her, she's conquered. There is no more. Britain counted on her fingers, shrugged, and sneezed. Where do you go to deliver that? She asked Sigurd, finding an engraved several cool eyes. I go first to the seamstress on Brighton, transfer to walk with me. The smith, Sigurd said, the opposite. Oh, the smith against her. Likely there something was made into a gift to the king she married to the slaughter. Sigurd tried scraping blood off clothes for another just as much. I thought she was reading. I also thought the Duke's daughter was so whatever you went on put me in mind pictures of what they might feed me for such a small thing. They'd be in their mind. I'll give you a spell for safe passage. I'll give you a kiss. A proper one? Sybil defined what he meant by that in more detail than our here. But Sybil explained and they looked around the private spot to make their trade. I'll hold that box for you, I suggested, since you'll need your hands free. Well, if he knows how to kiss, he will, I said. She blushed, followed the turkey, and reached her hand. They nipped into the stables, and I followed along the metal hasps for the bars that held the I imagined the silver and the ribbon pulled free. I lifted the ribbon, and the cloth easily fell from my hand. The ribbon is nestled in black silk, inscribed with names, with a gem as good as a clear. Even in the gray of morning, it shone smooth and clear. It was clear as spring water, smooth as a baby's mouth. The iron in my blood sang. My teeth ached like the roots of the fire. The morning's gentle air seized me, and the lid snapped shut with my shoulders. The gate guard shouted to the 12 watch, and I was asking like the breath in my lungs, the gates began to open. And then signaled, here, soon come running. I dropped to my knees. I could see the mud in my face was only in shades of red. It felt more like a snake than a vein in the back, and threaded it with trembling fingers back through the rings of water casket. I just got over the legs when a shout from Sybil almost caught me. I, he with no mention. He took the box from my hands. Only for kids to see, and I know all there is to know about pieces, he added. Don't forget the box. I nodded, and the box's spine fluttered in the wind. It took all my will to turn it back to silver. I would have but little strength left if Britain needed comforting. I found her doubled over and he put his fingers in my mouth, she told me. All 4 of them. And no, before you ask, that's not how to say I left out only that bit of writing when I told the Witch of the Woods my story, and she handed me 2 full papers, which I ate as I waited her reply. I viewed it and the secret part of the castle legend. But she snatched a picture and gave me no sweet 100 feet. From which I surmised that we just had learned to speak into each other's dreams at last when we made an accounting. Once she regained her temper, the castle witch charged me. When next you see that stone again, no matter how it looks or if it's changed, you will know it. It is a stone of great magic and dark destiny. I was pretty sure I told her that, but I didn't think it was to say. And that's why, when I first saw it again from the tower window 2 weeks later, worked into the pommel of an old filament-wrapped sword with a leather hilt and a curving single-edged blade as long as my arm, I knew two things. Destiny had arrived in our castle gate in not at all the usual way, and the lad would lose both head and sword unless I acted. But invisibility is a difficult spell, and I don't know, I didn't do it purposefully. But with the way he was carrying it and in a bit of panic, I cloaked that curved, one-edged sword as a leg of life.
I stood at the castle gate with the sword over my shoulder and the guard bellowing, "Speak up, boy!" at me. So I yelled as loud as I could, "A delivery for Lord Feltham." He grunted and turned away, I guess speaking to someone else, then turned back and said, "All right then." A man-sized door within the gate opened, and there was another guard who gestured to me with his head. "Follow me, boy, I'll show you the larder." The larder? Were they going to feed me? Was that all the reward I was going to get for delivering this? Instead of a magnificent two-edged straight-bladed sword, I was carrying a leg of lamb. I stood there as if my legs had grown into the flagstone and sprawling roots. This was my first encounter with magic. And of course I didn't think to myself, something magical has happened. I thought, I must be losing my mind. The guard grabbed me by the arm and jerked me along. I guess he thought I was some straw-haired farm boy overcome by the majesty of it all. I followed him. It was a good thing that my feet knew their business without orders from my head, because my head just wasn't doing any of the sorts of things I expected from it. As we walked, he said, "If you get grease on me, I'll skin you." It was a few steps after that when I had my first clear thought, which was, I wonder why I don't have any grease on me. Right then, a little slip of a girl with her hair pulled back tight and smudges on her face said, "Here's that leg at last. I'll take care of it from here, sir. And I don't envy the hiding it's going to get for being so late, I'll tell you that by the 6 mountains." The guard looked at her. "Do I know you, girl?" "Why, no, sir. I don't think you do. But you know the corn twists you ate last night. You made those?" She curtsied, looking smug. "What's for drink then?" "Ah, wouldn't you like to know? Now, if I don't get this boy and his haunch to where they're expected, he won't be the only one getting a beating today." The guard grunted, nodded, and said, "All right then, but mind you show him out, too." "Oh, I would be sure to, sir." The guard went on his way. The kitchen girl looked at me and shook her head. "Well, if you aren't the most empty-headed blank page I've ever met. What did you think you were doing bringing that right up to the door of the castle?" I opened and closed my mouth a couple of times, trying to find words. I managed to get as far as, "When I got here, it was..." "Oh, hush," she said. "Come with me." Her hand was cool and dry, and she was stronger than she looked. She brought me through a maze of passages to a narrow spiral stairway of stone. And as we climbed, there was a jarring feeling and a clank. The leg of lamb was now assorted. Oh, do come on before we're both caught in the sense of the question." I didn't know what the question was, but it sounded scary. So I followed her swishing skirts. They looked like a badly made foot, truth be known. Up the stairway, holding that double-edged sword once more.
Once I cloaked the sword as a leg of lamb, I had no idea what to do next. I didn't know how long the spell would hold, and I was terrified of the lad hearing it, or he would regard about what it was, or try to explain what it had been, that of his attack. I was driving to the long way, and, well, once you dive in, you can't get more wet. I plunged through the courtyard exclaiming about how late the leg was. Oh, I cried, here's that leg at last. Luckily, your grandfather, as you know, has always been very safe. I thank you, sir, I said to the guard. I'm sure this kitchen lat's can show you the right upstairs. The guard looked at me. Do I know you, girl? He asked. I didn't know. I said, try not to let my voice speak. What was also know what you I bet you know that fine stew you had last night. He said, I do indeed, the guard chuckled. He squinted at me. Did you make that? She had a hand in it, the boy said. It had only been 2 fingers and just a punch.
Hey, no throw.
And what's for tonight?
You're not down here, buddy.
I'm sure she'll oust you this time. But now, if she doesn't put me in this fine specimen where I'm expected, I fear there'll be tears in the tumors tonight. The guard grinned and left, and I turned to the boy. How did you know there was stew? I asked him. There's always stew. He said, which is true. And are you a witch? What's your name? What? I said, no. Pleased to meet you, one. He said, my name's Carson. Maybe you should take it. I got my wits about me and gathered my long skirts of very fine blue that were nothing at all like my I graciously took the lad by the hand and led him through the castle's passageway. On the spiral stairs of the witch's tower, there was a shiver in the air, a dull clank, and the liquid lamps turned back and forth.
At the very top, the spiral stairs opened up to a circular area with 2 doors. She led the way toward one, then stopped and pointed to the other. That is my room, she said. Never go in there. Do you understand? No, I didn't understand. I hadn't understood anything since my sword had turned into a leg of lamb, and I had understood even less since it had turned back. I stood there, staring at the door she was pointing at and trying to make sense of the door, the sword on my shoulder, or anything else. Well, she said, and I don't know why, I started to get annoyed. I looked at her. Look, what am I doing here? Where are you taking me, and why? Who are you? I'm the girl saving your life, you imbecile. Or at least I would be if you'd cooperate a little. How did my sword turn into a leg of lamb? It didn't. I just made it look like one. Now, you're a witch! Of course I'm a witch, you flat-headed Ligal fish. And if you keep standing here at the top of the stairway, someone will see us and even I will be able to save you. Now look, that is my room. Don't go in there. I'm taking you to this room. It has a window. So if you don't want to be sensible, you can just jump out of it and crack your empty head on the stones and be done. If you do want to be sensible, maybe I can get you out of this alive. Now follow me. The castle witch will know what to do about all this. I hesitated a moment longer, still annoyed, still confused, but now also a little scared. But then I nodded. All right, what? I said. She opened the door and I followed her through to books. I had no idea there were so many books in the world. We had a whole shelf of them in the cottage, and Mom still kept 5 in a box. One was Your Place in the World, that I'd learned to read from. Another was... I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I have to tell you, kids, I know you've grown up with books, but I didn't, and you could have thrown me half an acre to see them. Whole shelves, whole walls. I almost didn't notice anything else, and there was plenty to notice. I said, if you ask me if I've read all of these, she said, I will turn you into a leg of lamb. Sit on that stool. At first I didn't see the stool. It was like all of those books dazzled me. But then I did and sat. Don't touch anything, she said. If you do, it'll most likely kill you. My head was already spinning too much for that to have any effect. I looked at the bench behind her, full of candles and wooden rods painted various colors, and pens and paper and clear bowls and ceramic bowls and rows of jars. Well, she said, what am I to do with you and that magnificent, long, strange, double-edged sword of yours?
I said, no such thing. I mean, why would I? But the sword was certainly not double-edged, nor straight, nor half as long as he'd like to imagine. I courteously offered the boy a seat, and he sat, his dark eyes blank as an empty page. It was frightening. I set about tidying up. It was what I did when I had some time between errands, and if a few things tumbled into my apron pockets, well, no one the wiser in the world. I worked and he sat until it seemed my old milking stool had grown a boy-shaped mushroom. The mushrooms were to prepare for his own good. Did he understand he nearly died that day? Did he realize he was still all right? Speak truth, I charged him. Did you steal this one-edged blade? No. He drew himself up to a mushroom his full dignity. How did it come to be in your, I corrected myself, over your shoulder? I found it at the smithy, he told me. The smith was dead, and this was lying in the dust at his feet. The witch will never believe that, I said. She'll send you to the question, whose job it is to cut to prove things. I don't think I'd like that, he said. I'm going home. My mother will be missing me. I thought it would be nice to have such a thing as a mother, but I lived in the castle with fine clothes and important errands, and I would be a witch someday. Right, I told him. Off you pop. You can leave the sword with me. But he wouldn't. No matter how I explained it wasn't his, it was the jewel's forged as a gift for the false king, and that anyone who saw him for theft. But he was stubborn even then. He wanted his reward. I offered him a trade. You don't have anything worth as much as this, he said. We'll see, I answered, because in truth I did. But the witch will be here any instant. So the question you must pose to yourself, if you can manage such a thing, is this. Do you want what I offer in trust against the return of this sword, or do you want the witch of the castle to find it and rescue it? He gave it to me. I took it by the blade and hilt like they do in knighting ceremonies and carried it to my chamber. It was really a chamber. No one had thought to assign me one when I arrived at the castle. I'd been happy enough in the kitchen bunks when I was young, but that's no fit place for a witch to sleep. Witches sleep in chambers. I fashioned mine from magic in a garden room, too high for anyone to want to take a seat, and so happily for my purposes, unused for his. My magic seemed unchanged to any eyes but mine, so when I opened the door, I saw not a wooden box flat and a mat made of wood, but my own bed, a bitch, and a soft woolen rug. I wrapped the sword in the rug and felt about what I'd caused a boy in trade. I hadn't lied when I said my little stone and chain were of great value as his sword, but I also hadn't specified. I hadn't said to me. To me, it was worth more than anything. I'd always had it, and I knew without knowing how, tragic doubtless, that it would have been my mother's, which was all I knew of her. The rug-wrapped sword was too big to fit beneath my bed, though, so I thought maybe it could lead to witches until I could explain. I took it and my amulet back to her chambers. The boy sat where I'd left him, still as lichen and just as chastened. Here, I said, thrusting my precious silk-wrapped bundle at him. I was a little cross, I suppose, at having to let it fall on his We'll tell the castle witch. What? The witch rounded on me. I hadn't seen her there, and I didn't envy the boy having been discovered in her chambers without me to explain. Everything, of course, I stammered. Lady charged me once if ever again I saw the stone which crossed my path for a fortnight now past, to speak at once to you. This very day I learned this stone I told you of had been worked into a sword and the color changed from clearest light to deepest red. What? Leave off the poetry. I sighed and began again. I told the witch everything as plainly as the boy had told me. Right, the witch said, go home. He glowered at me. What took, he faltered, my leg of lamp? The witch waved her hand dismissively and gave him 2 coins, a silver and a copper piece. This should be enough to cover whatever we ate. Now run along, your mother and whatnot. He left, and the witch turned to me. Let me see that. She held out her hand.
Mom and I got on well. She was very affectionate and always glad to see me and never too busy to spend time with me singing or reading together. This time as I returned to the wagon, she said, "Where have you been? You should have been here an hour ago. Did you order the kettle?" "No, Mom. The smith, fool of a boy. How hard is it to ask a smith to, he's dead. Don't interrupt. To order a, what? He's dead. After a moment, she said, "Oh, well, have some dinner." "I got some coins," I said as I took the pheasant from the fire. "1 and 1. "How did you get them?" "Were you begging? Don't lie." "No, Mom, I ran an errand to the castle." "You?" "Yes, Mom." "What errand?" The pheasant was overcooked, but that was my fault for being late. I told her about finding the smith and the sword and bringing it to the castle. I sort of skipped the part about the witch girl, and I didn't tell her about what was in my pocket. Of course, I didn't yet know what it was. I'd been in too much of a hurry to get back to Mum to avoid a whooping. And now I couldn't. There was no way to get out from under her eye before dawn. But I was wrong. Mum took the silver, left me the copper, and said she was going to the tavern with only the words, "Mind you behave." She was off. She didn't tell me what behaving meant today. So as soon as she was gone, I took the bundle out of my pocket. I wasn't sure what the material was, but I'd never felt anything so soft and smooth. It was a very light red, a color I'd never seen before. I unwrapped it. Inside the wrapping was a silver chain of amazing tiny links, such as would be beyond the skill of any silversmith I'd ever met. Attached to it by a small setting was a polished stone, no bigger than the tip of my least finger, rounded to a neat oval with bands of white and different shades of blue. I held it in my palm and then slipped the chain over my head. I've thought about that moment for years, and I still don't think I can describe it. Did you ever look up at the stars and think about how tiny you are? Remember when we took you out on the Tribute Mountain River and we hit the rapids and the raft started spinning? Remember when Dip on the Belly Singer performed at the Bent Oak and his voice seemed to fill your whole body? Do you remember the first time you suddenly understood how words formed letters, letters formed words, and it seemed as if an entire world had opened up? It was like that, like all of those at once. It seemed like I was shouting, though I don't think I made a sound. I was shaking, but I'm pretty sure I didn't move. The world spun around me, though my eyes were closed. That's as close as I can come. After some amount of time, from the sun, it must have been more than an hour, I started to come back to myself. The day was bright, a little cold, windy. I took a deep breath, let it out, and turned back toward the wagon. That's when things got strange. I could see a line between me and the wagon. No, it wasn't see exactly. More like I could feel it. Like I was aware of it. It was a connection that seemed like I could do something. I didn't know what or how, but it was there. Then I looked at Corky, the older of the mules, and the line with the wagon was gone, but I was connected to the mule. Then I tried it with one of the ducks in the pond across the way, then with the door of the tailor shop. Whatever I turned my attention to, there was that sense of connection. It was a strange feeling, and I liked it. I took the pendant off to see if the feeling would go away, and it did, only not completely. I was still aware of a sort of association between me and anything I focused on. Not as intense and easier to ignore, but it was there. I wondered what it meant. The witch girl, what would know? I thought about going back to the castle to ask her, but she kept talking about how they'd torture or kill me there. But then I realized the whole point of her giving it to me was so that I had something of hers while she held something of mine, which meant that sooner or later, she would come and find me. All I had to do was wait.
The witch hadn't been as pleased as I hoped she'd be by my cunning in securing the stone with the sword. But I didn't stand there disappointed for more than a moment at that, because the sword spoke to me. Not in words, but I heard it all the same. Behind me, it said, "I don't know where it is," I told the witch. It seemed the right thing to obey when the sword talks to you. "I'll just go and put my rug in my chambers." The witch reached for me, and I don't know how to explain what happened then, except to say that the bundled sword somehow knocked my legs from beneath me. I tripped, tried to right myself, tumbled, and fell. The sword leapt from its wrappings and slid. It came to rest under a claw-footed chest, and the witch rounded on me. Her cheeks were flushed and whips of hair stuck to her forehead. I scrambled to standing, curtsied, stammered, and stopped. "Give me the thirst stone," the witch cried. "She wants me for her own," the sword said. "She intends to claim me." The witch's face changed. The whole witch changed. I could almost see her hair slide back into place. The pink washed from her cheeks. "That's stone from the smith," she said sweetly. "It will drink you dry. You don't want it." I told her that I did, that it talked to me. "You can't trust it," she said. But I said that I did. It had trusted me, even after I'd magicked it into it like a lamp. "You did what?" she interrupted. "I magicked the sword into it like a lamp." "You can't do that. You're not a witch." "I'm a witch in training." "You are not? That boy you brought in here, he smelled of it." "Oh, he's not a witch," I explained. "I am, or I will be. He just saw it the way I said it would be." Quick as a whip, the witch's hand reached out and yanked my apron off me. I gasped, and the sword came from its hiding place. But the witch apparently heard nothing. She dug into my apron pockets and pulled out 2 coins, half coppers, and a nice bit of string, and an amulet I borrowed from the woods witch, and a totem bag I made myself, and a page I'd copied from the grimoire for studying. "This," she held the paper out, "this is all your magic right here. You have none of your own, no power at all beyond a mighty gift for self-delusion and imagining. You're a marred page, all doodles and scratched out bits. Certainly no witch. Never were, never will be." She balled up my apron and threw it at me. She turned her back and stalked to her workbench and began digging through the books and jars, pouches and vials, searching for something. If she had said what she sought, I could have found it for her. I often did such things, but she didn't say. Really, I don't think I would have been much use to her right then. She had punctured me. I felt hot, boneless, and melting. I sat down on the chest and tried to keep breathing. It seemed more than I could manage. I wasn't a witch. I couldn't do anything. "Finally," she cried, finding her wand at last. She turned to face me and raised it. She spoke to it in words that rang in my ears and deafened me. She leveled it at my side. A heavy wooden chest shot out from under me. My bum hit the floor, my hand fell on the sword. My fingers wrapped around its hilt, and the witch's cruel spell flew at me. My body shot into the air and landed on its feet, strong, poised, and balancing. The sword caught the spell and bounced it away. "You have no magic," the witch cried. "How dare you deflect mine?" She raised the wand again, and the sword moved my arm. Every muscle sprang alive and wary, ready for anything. My mind was piled on. "Give the sword to me!" The sword offered to give itself the point first through her heart and out the other side. But I told it no. I had loved the witch, or I had when I had her. I had torn it to pieces, but I could not hate her with its shards. I think I knew she was right. I had no magic but hers. Hers and the woods witches. I could run to the woods, or I could let the castle witch kill me and know true power at least one time. She called magic to the wand again and pointed it at me. I stood ready. She struck. The sword moved and the spell ricocheted. The witch flung herself out of its path and the spell flew past her, grazing her hair. Magic splintered against the shelves of books. They drank it in and gleamed deep red. But the witch's hair just caught fire. She dropped her wand and reached for the water pail. "Run!" cried the sword. I ran.
After about half an hour, I came to a sudden and important realization. I hate waiting. Besides, what if Mom came back and the girls showed up? She might decide we're done here, or she might send me off on an errand. On the other hand, I still didn't want to go back to the castle. I pulled the pendant from my pocket and put it on. It was different this time. The feeling, like an extra sense, or maybe an extra limb, grew stronger and reminded me that it had been there the whole time. Once more, I turned my attention to various objects around me. The door of the tavern, the town center stone, a fence rail. And once more, I felt the connections to them. And then I wondered, what would happen if instead of looking at something around me, I concentrated on something that wasn't nearby? Like the sword, for example. The instant I thought of it, I felt it. It was a line, a connection between me and the sword. It was so sharp I could almost see it. I knew what direction it was. I could tell that it was moving. Without even deciding to, I began to move toward it. I set out of the village, going northeast, keeping in mind an image of the sword as I'd seen it lying on the anvil, its bright red jewel, straight, double-edged sword, the width of 3 of my fingers, as long as I was tall.
He's right about what he did, but he doesn't remember the sword. Don't think any less of him for it. But yes, it only had one edge.
Yes. I know your grandmother keeps saying it had a single edge.
Did you ever find that?
I'm the one who took it off the dead smith.
You should have paid better attention.
There you go with your shoulds.
What you should do is get on with your story instead of arguing with me. He's getting bored.
Where was I then? Yes, I headed northeast out of town and felt that the sword was to my left, toward the castle, but not directly toward it. I started running. Not because I felt like I needed to get there quickly, but because I wanted to. Because it was starting to sink in just how exciting this was, that something was going on that might change my whole world. As I started to get winded, I slowed to a jog, then a walk. By that time, I had entered the Newland forest. If I'd had any sense, I'd have looked for a path, because it's easier to get lost there than you think, with a woods that only extends from the fenced road to the river. But the direction I needed to go was so clear, I just wanted to get there. There are stories about losing your sense of direction in thick, heavy forests, about how you step around some brush or past a tree and suddenly aren't sure which way you're facing. Well, true or not, it didn't happen then. It was like there was a rope, and all I had to do was keep pulling at it until she heard me tramping, turned, and said, "You!" "Hello, what?" I said. "How did you find me? Where are you going?" I asked first. In all the years between that moment and today, I've never figured out what would have been a good answer to that. I found you by the sword. She hadn't hidden it, at any rate. There it was, resting on her shoulder. "Idiot," she said. "How did you find the sword?" "Magic," I blurted out, because I could think of no other word for it. She stared at me. And maybe if more light had come through the treetops, I could have done a better job of guessing how much of her expression was disbelief and how much was anger. As it was, I had the feeling that I'd said the wrong thing, and I would have unsaid it if I knew how. She opened her mouth, and some sort of premonition that I'm pretty sure had nothing to do with magic convinced me that I didn't want to hear what she was about to say. So I said, "Where are you going?" It worked. And she didn't say whatever it was she'd been going to. She closed her mouth, glared at me, then said, "Come along." Before I could answer, she had turned and headed deeper into the woods.
I had fled the castle ledge and run to the woods, but once within the forest, my path turned. My steps slowed and my courage failed, if I'd ever had any. I thought I was brave, but then I thought I was a witch, and that the castle witch was kind. But she had tried to kill me. All I ever wanted was her love, but I'd set her hair on fire. I get things wrong that way. I sat down on a tree root and thought of even my mother's necklace to comfort me. I'd lost everything, even my way. I rested the sword's blade on my shoulder. Its curve felt almost like an arm around me.
It wasn't curved, it was straight, with 2 edges.
So answer me this. If it were truly 2 edges, why would it bend that way? And how could I have pressed my palm against its one dull side to test the other's sharpness on my neck? I would have cut off my hand, not my head.
Well, you didn't, did you? There it is, on your neck.
No, the sword didn't behead anyone then. There's still time.
And what about when you killed the 2-headed dragon? You took off one head with one edge.
It was a wyvern.
Wyverns only have one head.
Exactly. See? Are you going to listen to somebody who can't tell a wyvern from a dragon?
Or someone who can't tell a bedroom from a toilet. I don't see legendary creatures everywhere.
Mythical.
Whatever. You're putting them to sleep.
He's already asleep.
Ah. So So he is. Good. I was afraid we'd be stuck here all night making up stories. What you do?
You still have my mother's pendant.
You still have my sword.
I think the grandchildren will never want to hear the rest of the story.
Would you? Good. If there's any questions or whatever, or anybody wants to ask anything, or wait, that's me. Sorry, I get this way.
You get things wrong like that.
I get things wrong like that. The title is, working title is Sword Happenstance. And we're just finishing it up and getting, once we've got it in shape, we'll try to sell it. So it's we don't have it yet. It is not, check this out, it is not bespoke.
It is not bespoke. Books aren't, though, are they?
No, they're contracted for.
It isn't that either.
It will be when it will be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before the end of the year.
Oh, you're cute.
With luck, we'd like to sell the short story version,
Yeah.
which is a little sort of like in between this and the novel.
That has a chance to be now. We started, we came up with the idea for this book for skill in, we actually don't in advance of this. It hasn't been quite because it was over spring break of last year.
That's the kind of thing we do on spring break.
Yeah, we're party people.
That's really sad.
Yeah, that is really the way this came
Oh,
about.
that's right, yeah. I played a song and she said, okay, how do we turn that into a book?
Yeah, what would that be if it were a book? And it just kind of went from there. I don't know, what would it be? I don't know, but I want to write something with fairies and dragons. So we did.
That's awesome.
Any other questions? If not, I'm told that some people might want books signed. I'm good with that. Yes.
How do you look beautiful at such an age?
I really don't know. At this advanced age.
That's a terrible compliment.
This is my son.
Ah, yes. Okay. Sons do that sort of thing.
Well, I want to thank you all for attending the services.
Thank you so much.
Very much appreciated.
And
for those of you who want books signed, I am going to step outside, smoke a cigarette for you, and we'll be back in and sign books in a moment.
And we successfully live streamed this, and it'll be on Steve's YouTube page.
Oh, do we know the sound came out okay? And?
It's pretty loud in here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was audible, but it's not like archival art.
Got it. Okay.
We'll do the audiobook separately.
So we're not just taking this as the audiobook.